You a big Corn fan?
Corn?
Corn.
No, not really.
You missed it.
That was your rehearsal.
No, you missed it. One media session. You get 2 words then. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
What'd you fix?
Wow. That's one of your.
How well have you fit into this team, and how comfortable are you with this group of guys?
How comfortable am I? I'm pretty comfortable. How well I fit in, I feel like that's a question for everybody else.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Marty Time TV and the Section 1904 podcast. I am Marty Caswell. That is Darren Smith. And that is AJ Cassavell. We are brought to you by the all-new Hamul Casino Resort, the Players Place. There's a lot to get to. Excuse me if it feels like Groundhog's Day, because we're talking about the Padres, the lack of slug, questions on the rotation. But here we are. It's great to see you both today. How you guys doing?
Good. Good morning. I know. I'm like just sitting here deferring to you two, since you actually sit in the press box and watch this stuff. I get to change the channel every once in a while, but you guys have to watch every out of every inning. In theory, I would never rat you out if you didn't, but yeah, I'm excited for this. AJ, good morning. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's game 4, so I'm not quite ready to say it's completely Groundhog's Day, but the same issues. It feels like I'm writing about the same things already, which is a little disconcerting.
It's
okay. You mean what I read this morning at MLB.com, at Padres.com, that was new, or was that just something that was in the drafts from last year?
There was no Walker Buehler anything in any drafts last year. I didn't see that one coming. But the rest of it, the lack of slug, and granted, I don't know. I do think they face some really tough pitching against Detroit, and you can always chalk up a Monday night, one game as a one-off. So in 3 days, this could all be irrelevant, but I do have concerns about the offense all of a sudden that I kind of didn't coming into the season, because I on paper, I think it's a top 10 offense, and you got to park adjust. It's not going to finish top 10 in all the numbers because of where they play, but it hasn't looked good so far.
What jumps out at you the most when you talk about the concerns on the offense?
Not to Groundhog's Day this again, but the lack of slug. I mean, they've scored 9 runs in 4 games, and I think they have 6 extra base hits. That number needs to be higher. That number would be higher if I think a couple of these, like Ramon Laureano hit a ball that's a home run in 25, 30 ballparks. Nick Castellanos hit one to the warning track the other day. Probably goes out if it's during the daytime. Maybe we're talking about different things, and I do think, like, you go back and look at last year's opening day lineup. Was Gurriel, Lockridge, Diaz at the bottom. Like, it is definitely different when you have, I don't know, 7 Laureano, 8 Castellanos, 9 Fermin. Like, that's significantly better. That can't not be better. So I think we'll see it eventually. But yeah, I said it all offseason that the biggest thing that would drive success for the Padres this season, or make or break their season, would be if they could tap into that power. And 4 games in, they haven't done it yet, but it's a 4-game sample.
So what numbers do matter to you? Anything? I mean, like, I have all these numbers in front of me. I jotted them down just in case it came up in conversation about runners in scoring position and slugging. And, like you said, it's 4 games in, so you sort of feel like it's a waste of my time to even go through the exercise of looking this stuff up. But, just so I can see it, right? Just so we could visualize it. But I always, AJ, like, I always value your opinion about stuff like this. Like, are there any numbers that you think matter 4 games into a season, or is it simply just about the 1-3 record up until this point?
Well, you tell me. I don't know what their numbers are with runners in scoring position. Like, that's how little I have cared about that so far. That's a thing that if you get into, like, if it's the 2023 Padres and you're talking about like historic lows, then I care about that. But I think 4 games is way too small a sample. So I imagine they're not very good. Is that accurate? Like,
that is yes, that is accurate. Slugging is, as you said, it's 29th, but like, whatever. Like,
6 extra base hits in the first 4 games is just not good enough. And like, it's 4 games. There will be stretches in the season where they're 29th in slugging in a 4-game stretch, but they just need to hit for, like, that's the number that I care about. Find some gaps, hit the ball over the wall. Jackson Merrill did it in the 9th inning yesterday. I think it could be like, if you're getting a home run a night from either Merrill, Tatis, or Machado, like, that's a good place to start. And then I think you can kind of get the offense rolling.
So yeah, I think that's the interesting part. I think that even just jotting down Manny and Fernando's combined 5 for 26 with 7 Ks is like, okay. Like, especially just given the World Baseball Classic and what we all witnessed and what we all enjoyed watching with those guys. I'm sure, it became a little bit of a question as to whether or not it would continue, right? Like, is this sort of stuff just going to roll into the regular season, or based on history, does it feel like it shows up and there's a little bit of a letdown because you're going from this all the way down to this? And like even Fernando himself had to say, like, yeah, you can't do that over 162 games, right? Yeah. It's ridiculous to think you're going to do it over 6 months. But, I think if Fernando and Manny are better than 5 for 26 combined, then, maybe we're not, sitting here just saying, yeah, this does sort of feel like an extension of 2025. So that'll happen at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah, and it's not crap when Craig Stammen says, like, they've hit some balls hard. Fernando specifically, I think, has had some pretty quality at-bats that have ended in hard hit outs. Manny, I think we've seen this happen to Manny before, where he kind of, like, it takes him a little bit to get going, and then once he gets going, he's Manny Machado again. So, yeah, if those guys are better than 5 for 26, then maybe the Padres are 2-2 or 3-1, and we're not having this discussion. And I don't really have that much cause for concern with either of those two guys. I would like to see a little more power, just generally speaking. But it's 4 games, and their track records over their careers is like way too big to worry about 4 games. Some of the other, like, maybe like on the more concerning end would be like kind of what you're getting from Gavin Sheets, and then Castellanos against righties. Granted, he's hit some balls hard too, but the lineup could use another lefty bat, and I know there's a lefty bat on the team they're playing this week that they had last season. But they allocated their resources where they needed to this offseason. The lineup could just use maybe Sung-Mun Song to get healthy and then just be available off the bench to come in and pinch hit. So in the 8th inning of a game, you're trailing by a run or two. You're not bringing Bryce Johnson into pinch hit.
AJ, if you were to open up your Padres mailbag, I imagine there's like a ton. You have a stack of emails or mail of people wanting Craig Stammen fired immediately, way over his head, and we're also going to blame him for the lineup construction. Now, he said day one they're still looking for the mix and match, right, to figure out where guys are going to go, the ideal leadoff hitter, what you do lefty versus righty. What would you do with this lineup? Or, is there an obvious solution to what makes sense given who they're facing?
I kind of like what they've done so far. And the Cronenworth in the top spot one is interesting because, like, then you're not getting an extra at bat down the stretch with Tatis, but Cronenworth's always going to be, if he's got 3 righties in front of him and Tatis and Machado behind him, he's always going to be facing a right-handed pitcher. So you're going to get really good Jake Cronenworth that reaches base at like a 370 clip, and you've got someone on base for Tatis. I guess I just like the willingness to kind of experiment and figure it out. And I do think we'll get into the season, and he's said this, that he'll kind of come to a point where it feels a little bit more settled. Fernando Tatis Jr., if he's Fernando Tatis Jr., is like the perfect leadoff man, because now he's drawing walks and he does have that power, and he's got the kind of the ideal threat that you need, because if you don't pitch to him, he's going to get on base, he's going to steal second, then you're in trouble. But if you pitch to him, he can hit it out of the park. But if he wants to hit with a guy on base or with a guy who's really wearing the pitcher down in front of him, I think Cronenworth is that guy against right-handed pitching. And then I think you can put Cronenworth 9th against lefties, and you steal a decent matchup that way, or at least you eliminate a bad matchup, a left-on-left Cronenworth matchup, by doing that. And so I don't know. I guess like some of the lineup questions that I have are like more toward the bottom, like Laureano. Should he be hitting ahead of Gavin Sheets? I think so. Then you kind of stretch out your lefties, you're them at 1, 4, and 7. So you're getting good matchups. But at the end of the day, like Laureano should probably be hitting higher. He's had the best at bats in the Padres right now. But then where do you put him? Are you leading him off? I think moving him from 7 to 6 would be a thing. But that's minor in the grand scheme. And I do think that like if Laureano keeps this up, he will be hitting higher at some point soon.
I'm now going to go ahead and direct you to Darren's absolute favorite line of questioning, and that's going to be the offense coming from the catcher, right? Because when you think of what you want from your offense, you start with a catcher, and you want production there. Now, for me, he's going to start back to back. He's going to catch the next 2 games, right? He's going to get Marquez's debut tonight, and then he is Nick Pavetta's personal catcher. I think Pavetta made that clear in spring training. That's going to be his guy. How much of a chance are the Padres going to give? I know they wanted to give him more time for Luis Campusano, but and he's been good with ABS. But if he can't hit a $150, will they keep playing him?
Probably not, but I don't think he will. I think like he's got to start hitting at some point based on what he's even if you view Luis Camposano as a 4A type hitter, like a guy that's not going to cut it in the major leagues but can rake at AAA, like he's not going to go over. And then at that point, like he's your backup catcher, and if he's catching 2 days a week, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. Maybe if the struggles continue, it's something you look at addressing at the trade deadline. I think you could find a backup catcher, but for now, like they're going to give him that chance because I think he didn't get that chance last season, so we don't have like a ton of, since he's kind of become, he's always been able to hit, but like last season he was the best hitter in AAA, and he hasn't gotten enough extended run in the big leagues to kind of know. I have a hunch that Luis Camposano is not going to be the hitter he was in AAA in the big leagues, but at least give him a shot. At least give him April and maybe part of May until you start looking for different backup catchers.
Marty mentioned ABS, AJ, and I'd love some thoughts from you about what it is that we've seen, and also the Padres, how they use it. And forgive me if I've missed this because we're recording on Tuesday morning, and maybe this was covered last night, but I'm pretty sure that there was a situation where Fernando Tatis Jr. was batting late. Pitch appeared to be a ball. Padres, I still think, had one challenge. Fernando decided not to use it for whatever reason. Again, forgive me if this has been addressed and I've missed it. Just overall, AJ, what's your sense of how the Padres want ABS to be used? Marty just mentioned here we've seen Camposano, who was successful in the first couple of challenges. We saw Manny, who was successful with the challenge. There's been a couple of like, hey, whatever, it's late in the game, let's just do it and see, take a flyer on it. What's your understanding about how Craig Stammen wants to see the challenge system used by catchers, pitchers, hitters, etc., and any thoughts on if that is accurate, if the scenario is accurate about Fernando not using it with the game on the line late?
Yeah, I think he had missed one the day before or the game before, and I don't know, maybe he's kind of second guessing himself as to what a correct challenge would be. I think like from what I've seen, and the issue is like comparing to other teams. I've been watching and listening to some other games around the league, and I feel like I've seen a lot more a 1-1 pitch in the third inning, and the Reds are challenging. I don't know if the Reds are, but some random other team is challenging. The Padres don't seem to be doing that. They seem to like be really intentional of picking the right strategic spots to make these challenges so that they have both challenges in the 8th and 9th innings. And if they're challenging in the third inning, it's a really big spot or it's a very clear incorrect call. And I wonder, like, I think that's like, in theory, I think that's the right strategy. Like you want to make sure you're using your challenges in the highest leverage spots. But I do think there might be room to be a little more aggressive. Like if you're ending the game with both of your challenges, the theory goes like you probably didn't do it right. You should be taking the chances to try and get that extra call or two here and there. And the Padres have ended a few games with both of their challenges intact. So maybe that's something they skew toward in the future. Maybe that it's like, hey, it's 9th inning, Fernando, even if you are 70% sure it's a strike, if you can win that, if you can flip that in that spot, get on base, and we have Jackson Merrill coming up and turn a 2-run homer into a 3-run homer, it's worth it. So I think the Padres have strategically been pretty smart about when they've used their challenges. I just think maybe they could be a little bit more aggressive in using those challenges. Just if you get one wrong, you still got another. And if it's the 8th inning, you're running out of time. You don't know when if there's going to be another time to use it.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's interesting is it commentary? Like, what is it commentary on? Is it commentary on Fernando maybe just thought it was a strike, or that it's a relatively new system and it's not ingrained yet into his memory back that this is something that he does have in his back pocket? Should he feel or should somebody signal to him that that's again, it's easy to sort of be snarky in the age of social media and say, well, maybe he's not into the, like, I don't think that was the case for him. Like he's not paying attention. I don't know. Like you said, he tried to use it previously. It didn't work. And maybe he's second guessing himself, but in that game scenario, it feels like it's a bigger deal, especially when you lose the game. So like, I really don't know. Like, I don't know if it's any sort of commentary beyond just like, hey, like he just kind of missed it, like it just didn't happen for him. It didn't click.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess maybe we'll ask him today about it specifically, but it seems like they could be a little more aggressive in those spots. And that's not just a commentary on Fernando. And I think Fernando might be thinking that cause he was pretty convinced. You can see his reaction from the one he got wrong. He was like kind of baffled that he had gotten it wrong, and so maybe he is second guessing himself. I don't think it's a Fernando thing. I think it's just in general thing. Like, use your challenges, get those extra. I mean, save them for the big high leverage spots. But when you're in those spots, use them. If it's 50-50, like, it might be worth it in the 8th inning with a couple guys on base to use it. Because
can I also just ask too what you think overall? I think the number that I saw yesterday, so this was before any of the games that were played on Monday, but the number I saw online, is it Codify? I don't know. That I'm sure we all follow the same account. There were 94, AJ and Marty, 94 ABS challenges that were overturned through the first weekend of the baseball season. I don't know where that number ranks. I wouldn't have even had a guess as to what that number would look like through the first 4 days of baseball's regular season, but we have to be over 100 by the time people are listening to this. I don't know. What do you make of that number? Is that, I mean, had you put any thought into this?
I think it's fun. Like, I'm one of those people that just kind of wants ABS, like universal ABS. But like, there's no denying on, what was it, Saturday night, the Padres, the game they won, like what it does to the crowd to get them revved up when Mason Miller's slider catches the corner and the ump calls it a ball and then it's actually a strike. Like, that just, I don't know. I'm not really a big believer in momentum, but that does feel like pretty deflating to the hitter and a pretty big boost for Mason Miller when the whole crowd's going crazy. So yeah, I mean, maybe it was the just like kind of the after effects of the corn intro, but I think just generally speaking, it's fun. That's just my reaction to it. I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed like something different. And again, not a big momentum guy, but I do feel it in the ballpark. I feel some deflation from the hitters, an increase in like kind of excitement from the pitcher. And who knows? I think that'll probably die down. I think hitters and pitchers will get a little more used to having what they thought was called changed.
I didn't think that the ABS challenge, the reaction for the fan, was going to be the most exciting thing we've seen at Petco Park so far. It's been a really, really strange start to the season. Also, 4 games in, I didn't think that we'd spend more time talking about the Padres' lack of slug. I thought the bigger issue would be questions regarding the starting pitching. I mean, Nick Pivetta had a rocky first start. Michael King looked really good. Randy, by the way, congratulations. Your pick for the opening day starter, Randy Vasquez, looked brilliant on Saturday night.
Love that guy.
I know you love that guy. I know you're his biggest champion. And I'm great. That was a lot of fun to see. And then, Buehler, some good, some bad, and we'll see what happens with Marquez tonight. What's the biggest question you have right now when it comes to this rotation specifically?
I'll make a prediction. I think that we will be. I think the offense will hit, or at least more than what it's done. And I think that in a week we will be talking more about the pitching as a concern than the offense. That's just a prediction. I could be wrong. I've been wrong about this offense hitting before.
Right.
It hasn't. But I really think the offense is going to be better than what it's been, and we'll be talking about the starting pitching. My biggest concern at the back with the rotation, I just think that, like, I don't know. I wasn't that impressed with Buehler last night, but like, it was his first game, and he wasn't terrible, and some of those hits found holes in the 4th inning. But
Jay Cronenworth make a play. I mean, Cronenworth makes that play. It's a totally different inning.
Yeah, and then like he did make a play in the 2nd inning, but that inning was kind of an easy one for Buehler. And then in the 4th, I don't know. Baseball's weird. Sometimes stuff like that comes back to bite you. I just think that if the Padres they have Buehler 4 and Marquez 5. If one of those guys is a meaningful contributor this season and eats quality innings and can serve as a back of the rotation guy, and I would be willing to get. I would say it's more likely, in my opinion, that it would be Marquez based on what I saw in spring training and some of the stuff that the Padres have done with him and his breaking pitches. If they get one of those two to be a meaningful contributor, I think that's a success. And then the other one, they can kind of, I don't know, like, there's probably not room for him because you're going to get Joe Musgrove back. I think the Padres are intrigued by Griffin Canning. Matt Waldron's on his way back. Like, there is help kind of on the way in the rotation. So you just need one of these guys to pitch well, and I think we'll see what we get from Marquez tonight. I'm not like writing off Walker Buehler based on yesterday. I don't think he pitched that well, but I don't think it was like an indictment on him not being able to do it. So we will see.
To reiterate,
I'm not.
You're saying that a week from now, the pitching staff will be a far bigger concern than the offense.
A week from now, it's going to be like snowing in Boston and then raining in Pittsburgh. So maybe not a week from now. Maybe give it like 2 weeks. I think the offense will be in better shape than the back of the rotation. But that might depend on where Joe Musgrove is and how
Okay.
soon he's coming back.
Okay.
What do you think of the way Craig Stammen manages bullpen?
I think the Saturday game's the one, or no, the Friday game's the one that everyone's kind of picking apart. They made that Mason Miller decision before the game. I'm fine with it. Like, I get it. I think Mason Miller wanted to pitch. But from there, like, Jeremiah Estrada is the guy you want in the 8th inning, right? Like, he's kind of the next man up leverage wise. The indication I'm getting, and this is either going to be proven right or wrong over the next 5.5 months or 6 months of the season, is that he's willing to trust his guys, maybe more than like fans would trust his guys, like Kyle Hart for 2 innings in a pretty big spot when you haven't gotten a win yet, and he's the bridge. I was raised my eyebrow a little bit, but Kyle Hart got the job done, and Craig Stammen put the faith in him, and it worked out. I thought yesterday he went to the right guys to kind of cover the innings. It helps that like David Morgan's your 6th best reliever. Like, David Morgan's really freaking good, and really good. Like he can cover 2 innings in a game that you're minus, and then you still have Miller, Morejón, Estrada, all those guys available for the rest of the series. So I think maybe like we'll see. It's hard for me to say. Like, the one decision that everyone's scrutinizing is Mason Miller not coming in for 4 outs, and that was, I don't think, a Craig Stammen decision, or at least it was a decision that you make pregame. And if it's day 3 of the season or day 2 of the season, and you're straying from decisions that you make with the big picture in mind to try and win a game, and you've already made that decision, now you're changing your mind, like, that leads to some really iffy areas. So I was completely fine with that. But the indication I have is that he's going to trust his guys. If you're going Kyle Hart for 2 innings in a big setup spot, and Kyle Hart delivered, like, we'll see down the stretch. Like, he might do that again. He might do something like that again, where you've Morejón there, but you want to stay away from him, and Craig Stammen trusts a guy, and maybe he overtrusts. We'll see. These are all things I guess we'll learn about the manager, but it's hard to kind of say after 4 games.
AJ, we have only five more minutes with AJ Cassavell before he has to go and do other things. You mentioned the bullpen management. What happens when Jason Adam returns? I think he has a sim game tonight in Elsinore, and then they want to test him back-to-back games this weekend. He's on his way back. Sung-Mun Song's on a rehab assignment. He'll be back sooner rather than later. What happens when those guys are available?
I don't know, because there's really good pitchers that it's the bullpen. Someone's going to have a dead arm or nagging injury or whatever, but I don't know, maybe you option Ron Marinaccio, who's looked really good. Like, that's a Ron Marinaccio would probably be in every single other bullpen in baseball, but the Padres might not have room for him when Jason Adam comes back. I think that's another thing, that like, if the Padres have Jason Adam, they also win that Friday game, and he was so close to being ready. I think he was ready. I think their hesitation for putting him on the roster was the fact that like they didn't want him going back-to-back games, and he couldn't pitch multiple innings yet. He couldn't go back-to-backs. So you're going to be pitching a man down some nights, and you don't want to be shorthanded. But I still think, I don't know, I'm not a medical expert, but I think if you could have carried Jason Adam and won that game on Friday night. So I don't know. What do you guys? What have you thought of the bullpen usage? Like, it's been interesting because all the games have been close except for the first one through the first 3 games. But is there anything you can like tangibly take away from how Craig Stammen's gonna run this thing?
I think what the point that you made is the one that I had in my mind, which is I think bringing guys into situations where the team is losing and having those guys manage the deficit the way they have has probably been the story of that bullpen so far, outside of the introduction and the corn and all that other sort of stuff. You probably were a big corn guy back in the day. Would I have that right?
I was not.
Like,
no.
Oh,
no.
Really? Feels like
that was a little. That was just a little before my time, and then like I listened to corn. It's like angrier than the music I like. Just so like, no issue with it, but like corn was like what, like late 90s.
Yeah.
Anger, like angst, like
like Limp Bizkit,
like
corn, that whole like Woodstock '99.
Yeah, just a little before like when I started feeling that high school angst, you know.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's what I think. I mean, I think I look at guys like Bradley Rodriguez, and you mentioned David Morgan. I'm like, yo, these guys are pretty good. If these are the guys that you're bringing in low or medium leverage situations, like, then this bullpen might be every bit as good. And I agree with your point. I did read I know I've referenced letters to AJ before when we've chatted here, letters to AJ Cassavell. But I thought he raised an interesting point about using Mason Miller. Yeah, using Mason Miller in that situation, even if you're not going to use him for 4 outs, you could bring him in there because that's your highest leverage situation in the game. I don't think that they really had anticipated what it was and how it was that it unfolded with Jeremiah Estrada. But yeah, other than that, I don't really have I don't have a lot of complaints. Guys got a hit. I mean, it's just really all there is to it, and you got to see what you can get out of guys like Walker Buehler and Marquez.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that'll be kind of like my last point here is like they're going to win games like that. They're going to win games that they're losing because their bullpen's going to keep them. Yeah. They're going to be down by 2, and they're not going to allow a run the rest of the game, and the bullpen's going to give them some runway. The other thing I think is like bringing Mason Miller in for that 1 out in the 8th is like, yeah, like you said, it's theoretically the right move. Like if you're playing Stratomatic or you're playing Status Pro or like a card game, like that's who you bring in. You bring him in there, and then you deal with the 9th inning in the 9th inning. But you got to get guys loose. You got to kind of understand the dynamic of Jeremiah Estrada imploding before it happens, which I didn't see coming. And Jeremiah Estrada looked really good all spring. So they're going to win games because of their bullpen, and it's not just going to be because of those big names. It's going to be because they have David Morgan pitching 2 innings when they're down 3-0. No other team can afford to pitch an arm as good as David Morgan when they're down by 3 runs in a game because they want to save that arm for a game that they can win. But the Padres can win that game because they know David Morgan's going to keep the game close. And if their offense starts to slug, they'll come back and they'll win a few of those games.
AJ, I know you have to go.
One soccer question before we go. Just I'm done with baseball.
Oh yeah, 3 AJs. There we go.
3 AJs. I want to be before Darren asks the final question. I want to present the finest collections of AJs ever in one single place. AJ Cassavell, AJ
ranked
Ellis,
in order right
and
there.
AJ
Yeah, top to bottom.
Go.
1, 2, 3.
Wow. You guys couldn't get Hinch to make a cameo while he was in town.
Oh, that's true. No, this was
yeah.
I don't think I saw Ellis during the first weekend. I'm sure he was around, but
wait, who is that in the
Preller, Ellis, Cassavell?
That is Ellis
right there.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure he was in uniform. Yeah, all right.
Soccer
I have one soccer question. Can I ask one on the way out?
Yes.
So I subscribe to a newsletter called Route 1, and they always ask a daily poll question. Since this is the international break, the question was, do you feel better or worse about your national team, given what you've seen during the international break? AJ Cassavell, well, do you feel better or worse about the U.S. based on what you've seen against Belgium?
I don't know, about the same. I'm going to be honest. This weekend's been so chaotic. I haven't gotten a chance to watch even the highlights. So I saw what happened, but worse. Maybe. I don't know. About the same.
Not great. Yeah, it was
not great.
Good. I feel worse, but maybe.
Well, then I'm happy I didn't have to watch it.
Yeah, so. I think you were lucky on that one. Good that you had assignment that day because that was a frustrating thing to watch. Good for a half, but then you have to play 2 of those halves, unfortunately, in the sport, and the second half was terrible. All right, I know you got to go. Thank you for doing this.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, AJ. All right, that was AJ Cassavell. Now, how do I hang up on AJ Cassavell? Oh, there he's gone. That was good stuff.
There you go. He's out. Yeah, I mean, you sort of, you feel ridiculous, like 29th in slugging percentage, and they're batting 170 with runners in scoring position. Except, this is sort of what the thing was about 2025 that people did not like, and people felt like it's unraveling, dating back over the last couple of seasons. So. Are people setting themselves up to believe that things are that things are going to be pretty much the same as they have been, and that this team just isn't going to be good. I still would contend. I mean, AJ said it before I could say it. Laureano's really hitting the ball well. Like I don't know. I'd like to see him higher than 7th, but the second you do stuff like that, sometimes things revert. So. I don't sit here. I don't know how much sleep anybody is losing over this, but it doesn't. It has certainly not come out of the gates firing at 1 and 3. I would say.
I would agree. Like nothing is clicking, and I think we heard so much about why these guys were asked these questions in spring training. Why is this going to be different? Why is the offense going to be better? And you heard guys like Tatis and Machado talk about the length of the lineup. We have more talent on this roster than we had last year. A guy you're mentioning, Ramon Laureano, you upgraded at catcher just by having Fermin as your majority starter over Diaz and Maldonado from last season. A deeper bench, Darren. So much time on Gurriel and Connor Joe and Jason Hayward, who just retired, this is a better bench, especially bringing in Nick Castellanos. But so far, and I get it, it's a small sample size. It's been very underwhelming. So a bit of panic mode, but it is too soon after 4 games. When do you panic? How much of a sample size do you need? 2 weeks?
I mean, maybe 100 at bats through all these guys.
Yeah.
I mean, they haven't even gone on the road yet.
I know.
Right. For Friar Territory, you and I talked to Dave Fleming. He's like, yeah, thank God that opening series is over because it was pretty freaking terrible. Like it was start and then off and then another, and then it's opening day 2, and then you have and then it's an off. It's like, what is this? Like, this isn't the rhythm of baseball.
Yeah.
So, I think that, the one thing I will say though, sort of as the backdrop here, just to not debate myself. I mean, I don't want to contradict everything that I'm saying. But, I do think when you look at a team like the Philadelphia Phillies, Marty, one of the things that happened last year with the Philadelphia Phillies, they're like, okay, maybe we've gone about as far as we can go with this core. Maybe we've gone about as far as we can. Now, they, ended up bringing back, what's his name? Why am I drawing a blank?
Schwarber.
I mean, it kind of looks the same, but they decided Castellanos wasn't really going to be. But they did say maybe sometimes you look around and you go, this is about as far as this core can get us.
Yeah.
And I don't know what options the Padres really have here with Manny Machado and Xander Bogaerts, obviously. And this isn't me advocating for Fernando Tatis Jr. But you do start wondering, has this group gone about as far as it can possibly go? I don't know the answer to that because I also think you can't change it. So what is the point in even bringing this up? I'm not sure. But, that has stuck with me since the end of last season that the Phillies decided this thing is just, we've taken it as far as we can. Like there's no historical precedent for keeping a group like this together and thinking that you're going to end up with a different result somehow at the end of the year. So we're going to have to do some things differently here. Easier said than done. You're not going to release any of these people. And Xander Bogaerts has actually swung the bat pretty well early on, has been pointed out time and time again based on some of the peripheral numbers. So, I'm just not sure. I just don't know what you can actually do here. And maybe, Marty, all of this is just one massive holding pattern until a new owner is announced and introduced. And then we'll see, how it is that the wiring of the Padres is similar or how it is different when we get through the first couple of months of the baseball season. It's impossible to know that.
Right. I mean, I think things I would imagine like next year. I know we're concerned what happens about next week, next month. But it just wouldn't. And to your point on the Phillies, like how much longer can this core go together? I think this is a very important year for a bunch of these guys for a reason, because I think after this, again, these aren't going to be players that are from the Seidler era. This is going to be different. The new owner will make a mark with his own people. He's not going to have emotional ties, Darren, to a bunch of these players. So I think it's something that Joe Musgrove said, that this is important because they have a very particular window with this core. If they can't win this year, what's gonna keep anybody from saying, you know what, goodbye, thanks for your time. We're gonna go ahead and start our own new era here in San Diego with a new ownership group. It could look very different next year.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's the great unknown about all of this is, like you said, there is a fan emotional attachment to some of these pieces, right? To a Fernando Tatis Jr., to Manny Machado. And again, you're limited in what you can do. But there are always ways around some of this stuff. There are always ways around. I mean, the Padres have been trading players with no trade clauses forever. That doesn't bother them. They're like, oh yeah, we signed this guy, no trade clause. 2 months later, you're out the fucking door. So, it doesn't really matter to these guys, I don't think. But again, I'm not saying that you're going to do that, but we also just don't know. We don't know what a new owner's going to come in here, how he's going to evaluate this. Some private equity guy might be looking around and going, wait a second now. I've put this into to my very specific algorithm, and it spit out that this guy shouldn't be a part of the and that's the way a lot of these cats operate, especially when you learn a little bit of the backstory of some of them. So I don't know. Maybe there is a little bit of uncertainty because we don't know how any of these guys are going to evaluate this and what their motivation is, especially where the sport is heading here over the next couple of months. So, I don't think it's as bad. It's 1-3, and it's been pointed out, I'm sure, but you've seen, and it's been pointed out in other places. What is this? The worst start since 0-4 back in 2018 or whatever it was.
I know.
I mean, I didn't know that.
I would agree with the AJ Cassavell though. They have too much talent offensively not to hit. They're going to hit. I believe in some of those guys. I feel better about the state of the offense than I do about the rotation, unless Preller is able to pull the trade. Darren, a couple things before I ask you about SDFC, because I see you have a nice zip SDFC logoed
quarter zip, rocking quarter zips.
Quarters, really?
Oh yeah,
Okay,
just quarter zips hanging out in the suburbs.
Before we get there, you mentioned ownership. What are you hearing on who the favorite as of March 31st is?
I don't know that I mean, I heard, I think I said it with you last time. Somebody said like Lakeup is inside track. I don't know. I know it's getting closer because what I've understood is that some of these owners have really started digging in on some of the actual departments, whether it's the business side or the baseball side or the marketing side. Some of these owners have started requesting that kind of information. Like they're really into the weeds now, into the details, not just hey, what do I get for $3 billion?
Like one-on-one meetings with the different department heads or whatnot?
Yeah, I don't know exactly, but my understanding is that some of these guys have actually gotten to the point where they are into the conversations with different departments to try to evaluate it from top to tail.
Interesting.
Yeah. Do you think real quick,
Darren, do you think they've met with any of these players at all? Like if you're one of these guys, do you want to meet like the highest profile players on this team? Like who are some of the, I'm getting this payroll that I'm inheriting. Who are some of these players that come along with it? I'm curious about that if they are.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's the kind of thing that might have gone public though, because a player would probably say something to an agent, and an agent would probably say something. Those guys aren't bound by non-disclosure agreements. But I mean, nothing would shock me. But yeah, I've heard it's gotten to that point. And the most recent candidate, I'm drawing a blank on his name.
Gores.
Yeah. I mean, I guess he's a real player in this, like a real player.
Yeah.
I did hear Kevin Acey, by the way. Your friend Kevin Acey. I did hear him on the new Schaefer and Sliwa show yesterday. I don't know if you were listening to that.
I was not.
Okay. And AC sounded like he was asked what he thinks about what's his name? Tom Gores, Gores.
Sure. Gores, yes.
Yeah. And AC's like, yeah, I know that guy. He owned the Union Tribune and he gutted it. And I was like, okay. Kevin was not pulling punches there. He didn't say he was, a piece of crap or anything. He just he made it very clear. This guy came and bought the Union Tribune and gutted it. Those are Kevin's words, not mine. So I don't know what sort of coverage he would get from our local newspaper, Marty. I'm not sure how to feel about that. I don't know what kind of coverage, but I understand him to be very much in the middle, in the running for this. But I mean, that's as much as I got. This isn't my area.
I think he proceeded, by the way. Like Papa Doug.
So he's not responsible for like the complete embarrassment that was UTTV.
Oh God.
He wasn't responsible for that disaster. I mean that televised faux pas.
I know. I don't just.
Yeah, AC. I mean, it just was funny to listen to AC say that. He's like, what I know about him is he bought the UT and he gutted it. I was like, okay. Yeah. Should be interesting. I wonder how that will work. And he also went on to say he never met the person. So it didn't. Right. He tried to say it wasn't personal. It was my interpretation as somebody who was driving on a freeway that it sounded like it was a bit. How could it not be? If somebody gutted a radio station, we would feel the same way.
But to your point there, like, and I know what John Seidler said about what he wants for the next Padres owner, right? You want someone who gets the community, who gets San Diego, who's invested, who has a deep love of baseball. And that to me would not be, I mean, maybe Gores loves baseball. He loves sports. When I read his background, he loves everything, right? And he's a self-made billionaire. He worked really, really hard, but he would not, I don't know. I don't know how you can have an understanding of San Diego, but also own the Chargers. I don't see that. But that's just me.
Yeah, I think it would be a challenge. You really have to put your PR team to work on figuring out how it is that you're going to message that out.
You know what made Peter Seidler was so special for a billion reasons, but also his understanding of what this market needed when the Chargers bailed on the people of San Diego and turned their backs and just left. He understands the void, and this would be the complete opposite of bringing in someone who's invested in that team. How do you do that? So those are my personal reasons why I'd be against it. But the most important thing is you do want a guy who's going to invest in the baseball team and commit those resources to building a winner. That's going to matter the most to fans. I hope there's a resolution soon. This is like, ugh.
Yeah. I mean, I do think a little bit of the uncertainty, maybe even subconsciously.
Yeah.
You could say, hey, listen, I don't really care. I go out there. It's not me. And I just watch and it doesn't matter. I go out and there I play.
Yep.
But, I do think like subconsciously, how could it not be in the back of a mind of a player, when you don't really know? Like you went from having an owner who was beloved inside of the clubhouse and everywhere in the organization and everywhere around the city. Don't forget, Peter Seidler was named the Union Tribune Person of the Year in San Diego for whatever that is worth. And it was worth something to celebrate that person, I do believe. That being said, Musgrove said it, so many of these owners, the reason that we're heading into a work stoppage is because of the Dodgers. I mean, for all the yammering on about how the Dodgers are bad for baseball, the Dodgers are actually the reason why the Padres spend money, because they felt compelled to have to compete with this team inside of their own division. So the Dodgers have probably been pretty good overall, big picture for the Padres, because it got them to say, we got to play differently. We can't just raise the white flag. We can't just sit around here and just trade away. We have to think differently. And they did. And I think it's been a net positive for sure. The problem is you got a lot of these losers who sit around there and they don't invest because they know that you can make a ton of money. You can make a ton of money just by losing in this sport. And, that's not been the way the Padres have approached it. But is that the way a new owner would look at it? I don't know. I also wonder what it is about some of these guys that they just seem to love owning these sports teams. This guy owns the Pistons, the Chargers. Another guy owns Everton and Roma. And this guy owns Chelsea and the Dodgers. And it's like, these guys, what are they? They own these different things in these different cities. And it's like,
it's a luxury toys. You want bigger, more expensive toys.
But right? What ends up being your priority? You know what I mean? Like I know it's like it's not all out of the same bucket. But, at some point, something has to be the priority. Is it your basketball team? Is it your NFL team? Is it your Premier League club? Is it your, how is it that you manage all that sort of stuff? So, I don't know. I suppose it's easier when you're in different sports and it's the NBA and the NFL and that you're not actually literally moving players around. People bring this up with SDFC because, SDFC is part of the Right to Dream Academy, and you have a club in San Diego, but you also have one in Denmark and you have another one. So do you move these players around? It's like, well, how do you decide that? Who ends up being the priority in this? People ask this question and it's a fair question. Hasn't really created any conflict as far as I've seen. But, I do think, when you're dealing in this kind of space, that's a lot. Stan Kroenke seems to do it pretty well. His Premier League is finally good and probably on its way to a title. And the Rams have won a Super Bowl, and the Nuggets not too long ago won the NBA championship. So I guess it can be done. It's just, like you said, we're so far moved beyond the local charming story. We're just now entering the space when you're talking about $3+ billion, maybe $3.5 billion, that can only appeal to people, who operate on a level, Marty, that is going to be foreign to us here in San Diego, both literally foreign and conceptually foreign as well. So, it is definitely going to be a new era.
A lot of apprehension.
Yeah. Well, it is what it is.
With certain owners, it was a good thing when they were sold. Now it's there's just such a great unknown. Really, really is. All right, what do you have?
And like you said, it just becomes part of your private equity enterprise.
Yeah.
At this point where, how can it ever feel as personal as it did with Peter Seidler? I don't know that it can. Because this guy's got other responsibilities, and to your point, I think that you made last time, either here on Marty Time or maybe it was on Fire Territory. You said he owns 27% of a team that wishes the Dodgers good luck.
I know.
On social media, I don't know. That doesn't feels
Just
like San
imagine being a-
Diego to me.
Yeah. Well, just imagine being a Padres fan, right? And then it's the NFL season, and you're seeing like visions of this guy wearing his LAC hat, and hanging out with Dino and John and AJ. It's just like,
Yeah.
gosh, it's the literal opposite of. You want to get your community. And again, I'm sure I could talk to Jay Posner or your friend Kevin Acey about what kind of owner he was. But when you think about a community and the point of a newspaper and what it does, and they're saying this guy tore it down, what does that tell you about about community in San Diego? I don't know, man.
He made a lot of money doing it though, because he bought it for a lot less than he sold it for.
Down. Yep, to Papa Doug.
But that's private equity. And, let's not forget, Peter Seiler also came from private equity and figured out a way to have a very hands-on personal approach where he became beloved in the city, not just from Padre fans, but he became beloved in the city as well. So I'm not saying it's impossible, but, we're coming in here now on totally different terms. Whoever it is that's coming in here is coming in here on totally different terms.
Yep.
Is this next person going to be living in La Jolla? I don't know. Is this next person, going to be walking around downtown San Diego and literally hands-on trying to help fix and solve and contribute to creating a solution for unhoused people in San Diego? I don't know. Maybe we have to wait and see what this person actually is all about before we start casting judgment on it. But it just feels like it's going to be different. And I'm not saying that's necessarily always a bad thing. A lot of these guys have shown that they've been successful, Marty, in their other endeavors. So I suppose you have to be open-minded until we actually get there.
All right, Darren, I'm trying to, by the way, I'm sorry. Have you recovered from St. John's and Duke? It's been a while. You and I haven't really talked about this. We've texted briefly. No. Better or worse that UConn knocks them out? I know how you feel about UConn.
I mean, if ever there was a game where you just wanted a satellite to fall out of the sky and land on the building in Washington, D.C. where this game is being played, it was that one. I just felt like St. John's didn't get blown out, had an opportunity to win the game.
Okay.
And listen, Caleb Foster's a great player for Duke and came off the bench, scored 11 points in the second half. They had no answer for him. There was a couple of questions, some details that I won't bore everybody with about why certain guys were so good in the first half and then they barely were used in the second half. It felt like the game was there for the taking for St. John's. And they know how to beat UConn because they beat them twice. But it wasn't meant to be, so it was a disappointing Friday. And, that was just a disappointing stretch. Padres lost twice. Ireland knocked out of World Cup qualifying. St. John's knocked out of the NCAA tournament. So I was on a little bit of I was like Manny Machado off to a terrible stretch. But whatever. It's just sports. It makes you go, why do I even root for this stuff? Why do I invest my money? Why do I bother with this? Why do I set myself up to be disappointed? But it was there. I mean, it was there. And then I think watching UConn fall behind by 20, I was like, God, we would have run right over them too. But now they're in the Final Four.
There's the ultimate what if. It's the ultimate what if. So
yeah. I mean, I thought we could play with Duke for sure. There was no. It wasn't one of those where at the end of it, you're like, hey, what are you supposed to do? Right? Like teams that go up us at Arizona are like, what do you expect from us? Come on. Have you seen that team? That team's really good. So I get to live vicariously, Marty, through my wife now. Oh, I'm trying to convince her. Very good. Yeah, I'm trying to convince her to go to Indianapolis on Monday.
Oh, not. Are you going to go?
Probably not. Flights home are crazy.
Okay. Well.
Yeah, I mean, we looked at flights. It was a lot better of an idea if it was going to be St. John's and Arizona in the Final Four, but now that it's just Arizona, we're a little bit lukewarm on it. So probably not. I will probably just watch it from the comforts of the couch.
Okay. All right. Where are you off to?
Where am I off to? Today's going to be a little bit of SDFC San Jose prep.
Okay.
So I gotta get caught up to speed. I also want to watch the World Cup qualifier with Denmark and Czechia. So I want to see if Anders Dreyer is going to be playing in the World Cup this year, Marty. If Denmark wins today at 11:45, people might listen to this after this pops out, either on Marty Time TV or via podcast. But yeah, he has an opportunity. So I'll be rooting for Denmark, and then I'll probably hate watch the U.S. men's national team against Portugal coming up a little later on. But yeah, that's my day in a nutshell. Then I'll watch a little Padre baseball at 6:40, so we can see what it looks like all the way at the back of the rotation.
Herman Marquez. No, that was August in the background. It's spring break. I'm not sure if you hear constant noise in the background. Normally it's just me being distracted, but it's spring break. And August heard me say his favorite player, which happens to be Anders Dreyer. I haven't explained to him why Chucky Lozano is no longer playing for SDFC. So that's a conversation that you can have when you see him next. Am I frozen? Oh,
Are you?
I am. I think it's my
turn
computer.
your screen off here. Yes.
Okay.
You're moving around a little bit.
I don't know what's happening. All
Doesn't
right.
matter.
All
You're
right.
not frozen on a podcast, which is where a lot of people will be listening to this anyway.
That's great. By the way, we should mention that, Darren. Anything new on your on the Section 1904 Marty Time podcast that we should go ahead and promote? By the way, you mentioned Friar Territory. Guys, we'll have another episode either tonight or tomorrow. Our last one was with Dave Fleming, the broadcaster of the San Francisco Giants, talking about really how similar both the Padres and the Giants are, because the lack of slug and they're going to go as far as their best players take them. Of course, both dealing with rookie managers. Yesterday, I'm in Craig Stammen's postgame, Darren, that little postgame room, and you could hear the celebration coming from the Giants clubhouse with Tony Vitello just getting his very first major league win. Oh yeah, it was so super.
Oh, very college. I'm sure the college coach
very
definitely had a big rah-rah speech after the game.
Yeah, I'm sure he did. So anyways.
Yeah, it was funny. Even during the broadcast, I think Don and Mudd were saying like, "Oh yeah, he's going to have him running polls at the end of the game." Like it's strictly straight out of college here. So I don't know. I thought what Dave Fleming had to say in Friar Territory was kind of interesting, because every social media clip I've seen of this guy makes me seem like, it makes me feel like he's completely out of his depth. Like this is just a terrible decision.
Yeah.
Which is probably unfair just based on social media clips, but it is what it is. This is what you signed up for. So, I'm not convinced. I don't know. I mean, which one of these guys are actually going to make it? I'm not sure.
By the way, I have a logo up there, you guys. I have the wrong one, but it'll still work. That is the Section 1904 QR code if you want to go ahead and subscribe, which we highly encourage you to for written content for the podcast. Also, links to this recording will be on there as well. But Darren has phenomenal content at Section 1904. In case you missed it, the two of us have joined forces. We are collaborating together. Marty Time TV and Section 1904, brought to you by the all-new Jamul Casino Resort, the Players Place. We thank you very much. Make sure that you subscribe. And one more I want to go ahead and show you guys, and that would be Friar Territory. We'd love it if you could subscribe and like and support Friar Territory. Excellent work, part of the Foul Territory Network. Again, we had Fleming, Trevor Hoffman, and Tony Gwynn Jr. They were just fantastic last week, as was AJ Ellis, as with Joe Musgrove previously. So a lot of good stuff coming to Friar Territory and the Foul Territory Network. We're going to keep on going.
By the way, speaking of Foul Territory, Mason Miller is going to be a regular on Foul Territory, so you can look forward to hearing from Mason Miller once a week with our colleagues on the mothership there on Foul Territory.
I think he was on with recently with Eric Kratz and with Scott Braun talking about Korn, Korn. I'm not familiar with the music, and I don't think actually Mason Miller is either, but I guess
no, it didn't sound like it. He's like, yeah, they sort of tossed this in front of me, and crowd seemed to like it, so I guess we're going to roll with it. People really like it, so that's good.
Yep. Okay, what happened to my all right, Darren, am I still here?
You are still there.
Okay, well, I'm going to end the show now because I can't find my screen anymore. Weird things are happening right now. So, wait, am I here? Nope, I don't see me. All right, Darren.
You're there. I can hear you. Doesn't matter. People will listen to a podcast, so then
they will. No, they'll listen to podcasts, but I also want them to watch. And now I can't find I need a new computer. That's it. I'm done.
Just get after that, Marty.
I'm all over it. All right, that's Darren Smith. That's Darren Smith.
Break.
I'm Marty Caswell, brought to you by the all-new Jamul Casino Resort, the Players Place. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing to Marty Time TV and the Section 1904 podcast. We will talk to you again later this week. Have a wonderful day, evening, week, weekend. Goodbye.
I think it's high. I think that we have a lot of talented people. I think we have, some Hall of Famers in here and some perennial All-Stars. And now I think that it's just us coming together, finding our identity as an offense, and showing up with intent every day to win each game. And I think step one for this group is to win the games that we're supposed to win. That's what good teams do.